Today from the global lane, emboldened by the Taliban takeover, Iran is making moves in the Middle East.
The Iranians are already completing their Shia crescent. It is possible that I might be looking for a broader reach.
20 years after 9/11, is America a safer country?
It is far less safe. In fact, it's extremely dangerous.
Another day of infamy for America, but with some positive outcomes.
The backstory of what God did in the middle of 9/11.
California in decline, and why Gavin Newsom may survive the recall. And it's all right here on the global lane. Americans are still trying to get out of Afghanistan any way possible. Some U.S. politicians say they're being held hostage by the Taliban. So what do the Taliban want? Official government recognition? Well, China, Russia, Turkey, Pakistan, and Iran appear ready to do so. A Taliban spokesman assures the world community there's nothing to fear, saying, quote, "We will always be vigilant in protecting the rights of women and minorities and the freedom of speech of Afghan citizens." Well, that announcement came as Afghan women were being tear-gassed and beaten for holding protests demanding their rights. The Taliban arrested Afghan journalists, and protesters scrambled to take cover when shots were fired. Here with more on Afghanistan and what to expect elsewhere in the Middle East is retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Sargis Sangari. Mr. Sangari is CEO of the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement. Sargis, it's always good to talk with you. So the United States government still lists the Taliban as a terrorist organization. So should the U.S. join other countries and recognize the Taliban's newly created government, the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan? What do you think?
Well, they're already meeting with the Taliban. I mean, when you have your CIA chief meeting with the Taliban to discuss terms, that in itself is recognition. When you're giving money to them in support of what you might be looking at as possibility of needs to get Americans out, you're already talking to them, as Secretary of State of Blinken stated, that we will use all economic, political capabilities to ensure that the Americans are still in Afghanistan depart. The Taliban are not asking for millions, they're asking for billions. And Iran has already supported the Taliban by moving oil from its borders directly into Afghanistan, as they have received weapon systems that they never had access to because of the sanctions now, which the Taliban are providing for them for these type of resources.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Iran. The Iranian president, Ibrahim Raisi, says he would like nuclear talks to resume, but without any pressure, while the Iranians say they don't want any preconditions set for negotiations, yet they've set a condition of their own by demanding the U.S. sanctions be lifted prior to direct talks with the Biden administration. Now, many geopolitical analysts say the United States is now perceived as being weak because of the way Biden left Afghanistan. So how do you think the Iranians are viewing the future of the Middle East? What moves should we expect from them?
Well, the Iranians are already completing their Shia crescent. They are now in Afghanistan advising the current Taliban government on the ground. And actually, the Taliban, before they took Kabul, they actually diverted with their force structures to initially take Herat. Why is that? Because Iran, for 2 months, wasn't able to move oil from Iran into Afghanistan, as oil trucks were getting destroyed along that border. So it actually used the Taliban strategically for their benefit as it starts not pumping oil into the Taliban's hand. However, money makes it to the Taliban, regardless of which nation gives it to them. It will be funneled through that capability of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which has its 28th Jubilee currently led by China, back into Iran. Iran is in a much broader negotiation capability. As of today, the leader of the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps made a warning also to northern Iraq, stating that any elements that are out there currently supporting the state of Israel and the United States will see a broad and swift response from the Iranian government for its own interests, meaning that it's possible that although Iran is conducting drone strikes against the Kurdish elements that were from Iran that are operating out of Iraq currently, it is possible that they might be looking for a broader reach into northern Iraq itself.
So a stronger Iran, and next door to Iran, American troops are set to withdraw fully from Iraq by the end of this year. Should Biden keep some of those troops there or leave Iraq to the Iraqis?
Well, if you pull them out, you're going to see what we see currently. The day after Kabul fell, we got the words from our commanders of Syrian Christian military forces on the ground that are no longer on the battlefield but are still operational in other capacities, stated that ISIS has started manifesting itself. Turkey has scheduled a possible meeting with Erdogan, with the Prime Minister of Iraq, because Turkey is looking at a broader action in Syria. You're looking at that probably taking place sometime before the end of the year.
And Sargis, before you leave us, I've got to ask you about South Sudan. It's been almost 3 years since warring factions within the country signed a peace deal, yet we've seen a surge of fighting in western Equatoria State. Tell us what's going on in the city of Tambura.
Yeah, President Silva was never elected president in South Sudan. He actually was appointed in that position, and it's unfortunate. It's just the way it worked out when Dr. John Garang died in a helicopter crash. He assumed the position for presidency of South Sudan, and when South Sudan became a nation, he just literally walked into that position. He's in a fight with his vice president. The two are jockeying to see who would be empowered. The problem with South Sudan is it will not work in this structure. If the president steps down, the vice president takes over, it's going to be the same scenario as it is currently. You need to have an outsider to be able to come in and reset South Sudan. South Sudan demographically is very young, so South Sudan needs young, capable, Western-looking leaders that can operate it. Otherwise, it will be nothing more than another failed African state led by a corrupt leader.
Old enemies there, the Nuer and the Dinka, fighting over oil and fighting with one another. Okay, Sargis Ngari, CEO of the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement. Thanks, Sargis, for bringing us up to date and for sharing your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Anytime.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
20 years have now passed since 9/11. How did that tragic event, another day of infamy, change American society? Is the USA now safer, better protected from another similar act of terror? Well, joining us to provide some insights is Michelle Bachmann, former member of Congress and Dean of Regent University's Robertson School of Government. Dean Bachmann, it's good to see you again. So please tell us, is the United States more or less safe than it was 20 years ago?
I hate to respond, it is far less safe. In fact, it's extremely dangerous. I would say we're red alert status here in the United States. If you couple together an open southern border where literally millions of people are crossing our southern border, they're all unvetted, every single one of them. They're coming into the United States, And now you couple that together with the absolute collapse in Afghanistan of what we had, our effort for 20 years. And then you see the mass migration of refugees out of Afghanistan and surrounding areas to all places in the world. We have got a hot, very tragic set of circumstances on our case, and we don't see a State Department, we don't see a Department of Defense, we don't see even our law enforcement agencies at the federal level in a situation where they are doing something about this. And so the American people are kind of on their own here as far as national security goes. We have never been in a place like this before, ever, because the United States unilaterally relieved ourselves of almost $90 billion worth of weapons to terrorist organizations, many of which have already made their way to Iran. So we have weaponized very bad people who have designs and intentions to destroy the United States of America and our ally Israel. We've never been in a place like this before, Gary.
Well, we've been strengthening our enemy. So now on the domestic side, how do you think 9/11 changed our society for the better or for the worse? Especially, I'm thinking when it comes to privacy issues.
It was a shattering. 9/11 was a shattering of the United States internally. Everyone knows that the United States was attacked at the epicenter of our economic forces and also at our military forces. And what was the response from the United States Congress? To pass bill after bill after bill. We were told that it was for protecting the American people, but really what it's done, it's invaded the privacy of American businesses, of American individuals, all to set up giant databases that are controlled by the federal government. And so what we've seen since 9/11, 2001, is big tech marrying up with big government, and that's come at the expense of privacy for the average American citizen.
And perhaps cyber warfare poses a greater threat to the United States. Earlier this year, we saw cyber attacks against oil and gas and meat supplies, most recently at Howard University, of all places. So how prepared are we to tackle that growing threat?
I would say we are not, unfortunately. This has been ongoing. The chief offender of cyber warfare is China, without a shadow of a doubt. I served on the Intelligence Committee, and there was a long study that was done, and it was clear. China is the chief offender. They steal from corporate espionage. They steal from the federal government. They steal from private individuals. It isn't just that, though, Gary, that we are living through biowarfare as well. That biowarfare, in all likelihood, is from China also, that they are behind the Wuhan virus. And so if that is the case, look what they have done to bring down not only the United States of America, but the world. If you look at the collapse in Afghanistan, you ask yourself, who benefited from this collapse? If you look at the expanse of the virus here in America and across the world with COVID, who benefits? The conclusion, again, points to China. So China is not a good actor. But I think this is very sobering, but something that we need to understand, Gary, and it's this. I believe that the United States of America, as much as I don't want to say this, I believe that we have lost our superpower status on the global stage. Yes, we have military superiority, but we remember, again, Joe Biden lost a war that won by people that are riding around on pickup trucks with AR-15s.
And finally, today, Regent University is holding a virtual broadcast, 9/11, a 20-year retrospective. Tell us a bit about it and how can people watch it?
We're featuring an interview that I will be doing with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, with the man who is the police commissioner of New York City on September 11th, 2001. That's Bernie Kerik. I also interviewed Attorney General John Ashcroft, who is U.S. Attorney General on the day of September 11th, and the Secretary of the Navy, Admiral Vern Clark, as well as many others, including Rabbi Jonathan Cahn, who wrote the best-selling book, The Harbinger. I think the viewership will be extremely grateful that they watch this, but then to go back to regent.edu/911, regent.edu/911, 911 for absolute must-see TV for a retrospective of September 11th, 2001 until today with the collapse of Afghanistan. It is the hottest topic and the hottest issue out there.
A significant event and some hard hitters there. Okay, Michelle Bachmann, former member of Congress, Dean of Regent University's Robertson School of Government. Thank you for sharing your time and your insights.
Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times bestselling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
20 years later, remembering 9/11, honoring those who perished, their family members, and pausing to reflect on lessons learned and the challenges ahead. Well, joining us to provide his thoughts is Mitch Glazer, president of Chosen People Ministries. Dr. Glazer, it's good to have you with us. So I want to discuss the special gathering you have coming up. But first, 20 years later, this is a tough time of remembrance for our nation in light of America's complete withdrawal from Afghanistan and the Taliban now in control of the country that was once used as a base of operations for attacking the U.S. Your thoughts?
When we planned the 20th anniversary, I asked around to see how many Christians were actually doing something. And the answer after my research was almost none. And certainly the city will be doing some things. But I think that as believers in Jesus, we have a lot of reasons, particularly for us as New Yorkers who are Jewish and believers in Jesus, we have a lot of reasons to honor our fallen heroes and the survivors and the first responders who valiantly attempted to rescue people. And a lot of us have skin in the game because my own daughter was traveling by subway under the World Trade Center when it collapsed, and I didn't hear from her until 4 p.m. She was at school on the Upper East Side. And so there's tremendous emotions involved with all of us on this 20th anniversary that's only been exacerbated by what happened in Afghanistan.
And Mitch, our war on terror is far from over 20 years later. Do you think America and the Middle East are safer or more dangerous now?
I think that we have really been clued in to Middle Eastern mentality where there's tremendous ability to wait and be patient. And so I don't think that the Taliban did all of this overnight. I think they've been working on it for 20 years. And unfortunately, when al-Qaeda attacked our Twin Towers, it was the first time America was really touched by terrorism in a long time. I was around when the first attack on the World Trade Center happened when the blind sheikh was eventually arrested. But nobody ever thought that there would be something like just happened. And so I think that we need to be vigilant, Gary. We need to be prayerful, and we need to be thoughtful, and we need to encourage Homeland Security and all of our security agencies. Pray for them, that they will be able to do their jobs and take care of us, because I think that we've always been vulnerable. We just didn't know it for a number of decades.
Overall, it's changed our society. Also, it's changed the Middle East. How do you think it's changed the Middle East as well?
I think that one of the ways it's changed the Middle East is that Americans, and particularly evangelicals, have become more sensitive to the terrorism that Israel goes through every day. Our attitudes towards Israel change as evangelicals. We always loved Israel, but now we identified with Israel and the struggles that Israel was going through. And so I think that has dramatically changed. And I also think that many of the Muslim nations have decided that they don't want this kind of relationship with Israel or with the United States. And so the divisions internally in the Middle East, I think, are becoming clearer now, as well as you have all these different factions lining up. So I think it's a bigger difference than it was 20 years ago, for sure.
Well, and we've seen the Abraham Accords with a number of Muslim nations now in relationship with Israel. But Chosen People Ministries, in partnership with Alliance for the Peace of Jerusalem, is holding a special 2-day gathering at Trinity Baptist Church in New York. Tell us about it. How does that differ from other 9/11 events?
Well, we'll be doing a lot more praying and a lot more worshiping. We have Marty Getz and his daughter coming, and actually Marty wrote a special hymn for 9/11 that we are going to introduce that day, and it's absolutely beautiful. We have Ann Graham Lotz coming, Joel Rosenberg, who's going to give us some of the background on the Abraham Accords and so on, Darrell Bach from Dallas Seminary, Mike Rydelnik, Bible Answer Man from Moody. And so we're going to have a lot of frontline workers who are believers, who came in and helped with the disaster. We have folks from Billy Graham, Samaritan's Purse, and we also have folks coming from the Southern Baptists. And some of these groups did a tremendous amount of phenomenal work, and they've never really been properly recognized and honored. So, and then finally, we're going to talk about the backstory of what God did in the middle of 9/11. People got saved, churches grew, Bible studies increased, people shared the gospel with thousands of people, and that story has never quite been heard.
Okay, we'll be looking for that. Dr. Mitch Glaser, president of Chosen People Ministries, thanks for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. And remember, Gary, they can watch it online if they can't make it to New York. And even though we're serving corned beef sandwiches for lunch, I don't understand why anybody would want to pass it up. But it will be online as well.
That's a long way to go for a good corned beef sandwich, but sometimes it's worth it. Thank you, Dr. Glaser. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible, yes, Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
government says it doesn't want to resettle Afghan refugees into the state of California. The reason? It's too expensive for them. And it's not only Afghan refugees who may find the state too expensive. Californians are at a breaking point. Many are leaving the state. No wonder. They're being taxed to death, and their mismanaged state is in decline. If you own a median-priced home in California and your income is just under $58,000 per year, you pay a total of about $9,300 in state income and property taxes. Many Californians pay a state and local sales tax rate of up to 10%, and motorists pay fuel taxes of more than $1 per gallon. Fewer jobs are available. The unadjusted July unemployment rate of 7.9% was more than 2% higher than the rate for the entire country. And state unemployment fraud is expected to top $9 billion. Power shutdowns are now a regular part of life in California, and that's causing tech companies to consider leaving. A lack of forest management is resulting in destructive wildfires, causing billions of lost dollars to homes, property, and businesses. A lack of water storage facilities is one reason the state is suffering from a water crisis. California also faces an impending fiscal crisis over debt, especially for state pension funds and infrastructure. And many voters say they're tired of COVID-19 shutdowns and the lack of transparency. They say Governor Newsom is hiding important coronavirus data from the public. And homelessness has gotten worse in Los Angeles and San Francisco during Gavin Newsom's time as governor. So with all of this happening, will Newsom survive? Polls show he's ahead, but it may depend on turnout. And some Californians are expressing concerns over potential voter fraud. These holes in ballot return envelopes in L.A. County make it easy to detect how people voted. Yes or no votes could easily be tossed by dishonest election officials or postal workers. Ballot theft is also of concern. 300 ballots were found in the backseat of a felon's car. And this video showed 2 women stealing ballots from an apartment building mailbox. Should Governor Newsom be recalled? Well, there are some good reasons to send the governor packing. It's an issue for Californians to decide if an honest and fair election is held. But at this point, it's questionable whether it will be fair or honest. 22 million ballots were sent out to voters. Why? There's no reason people cannot vote safely in person. Ballot harvesting, especially at nursing homes, along with a massive mail-in ballot system, means this recall election is ripe for fraud. Don't be surprised to see counting stopped or delayed. That's usually a sure sign that votes will be counted until the desired outcome is achieved. Well, that's it today from the Global Lane. Be sure to follow us on the CBN News and NRB channels, social media, and our broadcast affiliates. And until next time, be blessed.